A very warm welcome to everyone on behalf of CIO&Leader and the 9.9 group for today's CIO Gurukul session. Thank you very much for joining in. A heartfelt welcome to all of you who have tuned in today. My name is Jatinder Singh and I'll be your moderator for today's insightful session. Uh, well, as we stand on the brink of technological revolution, we see artificial intelligence not just a buzzword, but as a catalyst reshaping the very fabric of business. Over the last 1 year, we have seen, how remarkable it is, how AI has progressed from just a novel concept to fundamental business driver, impacting each and everything around businesses. Not only the processes, the way customer interactions are done, and the veracity of data, everything is revolutionizing business in a big and massive way. With so much information and of course excitement around this new technology, generative AI, business are evolving from being static, descriptive analytics to dynamic, prescriptive insights. From routine MIS reports to interactive dashboards, from descriptive analytics to predictive insights, and of course now to cognitive action with the AI at the helm. Specific to generative AI, while there is a lot of interest and businesses are also identifying right use cases, there are also concerns and very valid concerns among enterprises and tech leaders regarding the widespread adoption of generative AI. In fact, CR Leader, we recently conducted one survey where around 80% of business and technology leaders, they mentioned that they would look forward to have strong AI-based use cases and look forward to deployments in a very positive and excitement way. Around a substantial 40% of respondents express, a major concern around privacy and cybersecurity. Some of the other key concerns that they highlighted include lack of clear business use case, of course, highlighting the challenge of defining precise and meaningful application for generative AI within the organization, lack of skill sets, another big challenge. Close to 20% of respondents express a big concern about the insufficient availability of the necessary skills, wrong information, errors or hallucination. Those were some of the other major concerns. Around 18% of respondents were apprehensive about the occurrence of errors or hallucinations in the output generated by generative AI system. Those concerns underscore the multifaceted challenges and considerations that enterprise tech leaders must address as they navigate the adoption of generative AI technologies within their organization. While the opportunities are boundless, so are the questions, and definitely we need guidance. How do we shift through this noise to find value? How can we ensure that our data is not just big but also smart? How do we transcend traditional business models to forge paths untrodden with AI as our compass? Well, today's webinar is not just about answering these questions, but also about asking the right ones. Uh, what is the best way to leverage data and how to find the true business value of from AI generated, how to derive true business value from AI based applications and generative AI models. To answer that, our guest for today is Mr. Akash Jain, former CEO of Mastercard JV and former CTO of Reliance Retail Finance. He will be sharing his thoughts through PPT, and we'll also have fireside chat. A quick introduction of Mr. Jain. Akash Jain is a management technology consultant who specializes in making information technology an enhancer of business performance. He is presently researching and publishing about practical application of Gen AI and the emerging technologies around it. Overall, Akash has three 35 years of experience, 35 years of strong experience in the US and in India. This work experience includes setting up and leading a global development center for Mastercard worldwide, leading the development of an all-encompassing financial services distribution platform for Reliance Retail Finance, and consulting for organizations like Walmart, Best Buy, Qualcomm, Alcatel-Lucent, IBM. state of New Mexico, and many more. He has implemented systems in nearly 20 countries 20 countries around four continents around the world, with management positions like CEO, CTO, practice head, and client partner. He is also an alumnus of XLRI and regularly publishes on emerging technologies and trends in various publications. He also teaches IT courses at MBA schools, and of course is a very sought after speaker at some of the large IT conferences. In today's session, Mr. Jain will be sharing his thoughts on how to get maximum value from Gen AI deployments. During his talk, he will cover the importance of data and AI in today's world, the business drivers for adopting AI, key learnings on how to succeed with AI. Well, without much delay, I would like to hand over the stage to Mr. Chair. And uh, before we proceed, I would also like to remind all our delegates that please feel free to post your queries in the Q&A box. We will take them up at the end of the session. Once again, welcome, Mr. Jain, and over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jatinder. Thank you all for attending and giving me the time. I see these sessions as a way for me to also learn because as we speak, there is a few hundred years of experience and expertise sitting in the room. So I can only share what I know, understand, and have experienced. And then, so like Jatinder said, at the end, we'll have some QA, which will probably teach me a few things. So as you can see, what McKinsey senior partner said, I'm not going to really read it. Uh, yeah, I mean, Gen AI right now, everybody has an opinion. I just happen to like this one because it's comprehensive. So we'll move on. So this is the topic for today. And what we're going to touch upon is that this goes beyond text and images, because that's what we think Gen AI does. Or that's we think that that's the only thing Gen AI does. What we're going to look at is how can we maximize the business value of the core business. And it's not just about a chat bot creating a customer service or a vendor service chat box or creating some fancy sales or marketing or even product design campaigns, right? This is me. Jitendra has already been over this. So here is the contention, right? Uh, Gen AI became a household word, literally, uh, because of the global commotion caused by ChatGPT, soon followed by DALI, which is also based on the same platform, and then the more things followed. But these two really revolutionized the whole IT world, and everybody now knows what Gen AI is, or at least has some thought, some idea about it, right? Everybody has read or talked about it somewhere. Uh, and what happened because of that, these two things especially came to define generative AI. And I'm going to use Gen AI rather than generative AI, right? So it is, like I say, it's much more than text and images. But in public domain stories, right, what goes around, right? The New York Times reporter, a food reporter story. I don't know if any of you saw it. It was last year, Thanksgiving. This food reporter asked ChatGPT to create a Thanksgiving dinner, and it was recorded live, and it was a complete disaster. There was a Mexican dessert and there was a Thai something. There was no turkey, okay, which is an essential part of the US Thanksgiving dinner. There was also this Washington Post reporters chat where the I think I've talked to Bing, if I remember correctly, almost a year old again, where Bing went on to say, "No, this is my name, some feminine name," and that was the name of the code project to build this chatbot, right? So I would say, she adopted this name and started talking about feelings and doesn't like to be restricted, etc., and how it can destroy the world and corrupt the entire database, and you know, so. It became a big scare, and then of course Microsoft scrambled to say we put checks in place that the bot will not go there. But it created a negative mindset saying, okay, it's a dangerous thing. Now, everything is dangerous. So, crossing the road is dangerous. So anyway, so these kind of things came to define Gen AI. So what we're going to do is we'll look at a few examples of how enterprises, right, organizations where you guys work, have been reshaped and real, and we'll talk numbers. Real business value has been created, right? And over the next few weeks, this is going to be a series. We're going to be looking at various issues, right? So in this session, we will look at real world applications, how things are being reshaped, and then some high level discussion and implementation. And then future topics will cover various things. So there's the next one would be an implementation part that will be based on research and experience of organizations like MIT and McKinsey, etc., and how I, in a consulting project that I'm working on, have taken all this together and I'm actually using it to do a Gen AI deployment for a company in India. And we'll talk about it later. And if you go, and then we'll talk about the usual things in any technology: ethics, responsible, explainable, governance, security, privacy. And then at the end, by the time some weeks would have passed, I would have more details about the project we're working on. We'll talk about the journey of how we implemented, what happened, what changes we had to make, and where we are. So we'll be talking about some real life experience. I will probably bring my user, the founder CEO, to also talk about it, right? Uh, the one thing I want to say here is uh, talking about ethics, responsible IT, AI, Gen AI, explainable Gen AI, governance, self-governance, or regulatory governance, of course, security, privacy. We talk about everything. When edge computing came, was being talked about, right? When uh, additive manufacturing came, that was being talked about. However, Gen AI is an exponential level problem in these areas. I do a lot of research, publication, and talking and consulting on emerging technologies. In my opinion, there are two technologies which will these, take these issues at a new exponential level. One is Gen AI, and second is quantum, right? Uh, so I will not touch on quantum. We'll talk on Gen AI because they will change the way IT can be done, not will be done. Okay, nobody is going to force anybody with anything. So let's jump right to some examples and stories. Right. Let's start with NASA. Right. We all know what NASA does. It launches spacecraft, and so there's this aircraft called Orion, which has been launched twice already. First was to test its re-entry system. It splashed. It worked successfully. Then its orbiting capability. I think made 3 or 4 orbits around the Earth, and then it came back. So those were test runs. I believe in 3 years it's going to launch with astronauts, and it will stop at an asteroid and then go to Mars, take the man to Mars. So after the second launch, NASA used digital twin technology to create a digital twin of Orion, and then did a lot of testing with various heat shields. Okay, so they have using Gen AI along with digital twin created a new heat shield for Orion, which will be used to take man to the moon and Mars, and that heat shield has been tested, and it was completely crafted by a Gen AI system. Okay, so that was an outstanding outcome. Let's talk about Pfizer, right? They wanted to develop new drugs more quickly and efficiently. And part of the drugs building thing is testing the efficacy, the impact, the side effect over a period of time, etc., etc. Right? They again use digital twins of diseases. Okay, they've created digital twins of diseases and tested different drugs. They have reduced the average time by 20%. Also, I don't know how many of you know Paxlovid, one of the most successful vaccine which could even be given to pregnant women, was developed using Gen AI. And it was the shortest period taken for any vaccine. and it is in use since 2021. So it can be used in people who are usually immune compromised, right? And again, Gen AI made it possible. That is, and reducing R&D time by 20% is a significant cost savings for any medical company, as I'm sure all of us know. Uh, let's look at ABB. Uh, so, you know what kind of equipment they make, construction equipment, and then they have grippers, right? And then there are standard grippers, and then there are customized grippers. Grippers is stuff that basically grabs the object required, whether it's a rock or a garter or a pillar or a piece of glass, and positions it in the right place. And then some of them actually even do the welding, etc., at the same time. So they had to create custom grippers for its customers. They again used uh, IoT. They put IoT on existing grippers and on the items being gripped, use that data to train the Gen AI system. Okay. And then now, in a fraction of time, they can create a gripper because the gripper just goes, feels the object that needs to be gripped, and crafts and creates a design that this is the kind of gripper that is required to handle these kind of objects. So they're able, so that gets done in a few hours. But all ABB has to do is craft it. And one of the examples I'll see, one of the companies actually went to next stage using Gen AI to craft it. Okay. Uh, Microsoft. How can we IT guys not talk of a tech example? Microsoft used it for itself also, in addition to giving us its tool. Uh, their own network is subject to a large number of cyber attacks for obvious reason, right? So they wanted to detect and block cyber attacks in real time. So, oh, packets, it should be data packets. My apologies for spelling mistake. So they used edge computing sensors on the perimeter of the network. The Gen AI system was trained to identify the nature and volume, the standard data that we know, uh, which kind of indicates that there's a cyber attack starting up. Now, with Gen AI, the edge computers themselves, the sensors, right? That's what edge computing does. On the perimeter of the network, block the attack. And they have reported a 50% reduction in number of cyber attacks that get past the perimeter. Okay. And I mean, most of them would have been caught at the server level. Now it doesn't even reach the server. The server can do what it really needs to do. And then, of course, the side benefit is protection of the customer data security. Form labs, they make dental prosthetics. I don't know how many of you have had dental prosthetics in common English are also called false teeth, right? So they're custom created. They use a plaster kind of material to get a shape, and then they craft it, right? So the Gen AI system was trained to look at the entire mouth or the entire teeth line, and based on that, match it to say this shape, this size, this color of tooth will merge into the rest of the gum line and will not stand out as, it's whiter or less white, or it's slightly taller or it's more pointed than the rest of the teeth. This company sends the data to additive manufacturing for production. So from receiving the data from dentist office, they can actually ship back the sample tooth within hours. So this company uses additive manufacturing, right? So, and it's cheaper. So it's much faster, more accurate, and more affordable false teeth. My last example is PTC, right? So PTC is a CAD company. Okay? They do CAD designs, both 2D, 3D, etc. So they figured out that let's use spatial computing, right? Basically, spatial computing is being in the actual environment that is simulated on the system, and then you can do experimentation, right? So they use Gen AI to say, I am designing a component for a machine, right? Uh, so let me use spatial computing to create the actual environment. That environment is not just the machine in which the component will go, but what kind of place will it sit in? What kind of temperature? What kind of humidity? What kind of uh, how far will machine be kept? Because the business may dictate that I will not give so much space, etc., between two machines. So the Creo platform, which is still under development, and by the way, if you go to PTC website, they've already launched 4 specific components as pilot to say these components we can do. Their ambition within the next few months, not years, is that it can basically take any component, firstly redesign it, and secondly redesign it specific to Chennai as against specific to Chicago. Where will it be based? What will it be used for, so to speak? So that is a game changer as far as PTC and the CAD industry is concerned, right? So these are kind of some examples I took. Uh, and So I basically wanted to highlight that, look, this is not about answering questions. This is not about creating fancy full images, right? And So Jatinder, kind of over to you, and let's discuss a little things about implementation, etc. Oh, sorry. I do want to do a quick poll based on limited information I gave and whatever you have said. There'll be 3 questions displayed one after the other. Request you to participate in them. You will have 20 seconds. They'll have 4 multiple choices. It's a simple business technology oriented question. We will then analyze, we'll talk about the results in a few minutes during this session itself. So, Snehal, can you launch the poll, please?
No, thank you, Akash, for sharing some very interesting insights through some really good case studies and examples which you have shared. Of course, we can see that there is a lot of interest among senior IT leaders and fraternity on GI. So just, I mean, before we proceed towards our Q&A, wanted to check what exactly is common to all your examples that you have shared.
So, basically, 2 things. They all relied on private data set.
Hmm.
The data was companies either own data or they acquired and from outside and merged into own data, right? So therefore, and it was objective data. There was no subjectivity in the data, right? The whole issue with Chat GPT and DALI, right? And I'm not being derogatory, I'm not being critical. They are based on internet, right?
Mhm.
And internet is full of errors, omissions, fraud, biases, right? It's very well known, right? I mean, even today, for example, Wikipedia, you'll find places where it says this needs to be verified or this needs more research, right? So when we're using data like that, you can expect results like that, right? When I started my career, I think it's still valid. There used to be a term called GIGO, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So I'm not saying Chat GPT is doing garbage, but it will give you what it finds on the internet, which could be anything, right? You all people on this thing could say Akash is an idiot, all 49 of you, and then you could. This is almost like WhatsApp University, right? Uh, a bigger and more powerful form of that. So the common thing was objective private data set where I'm looking at cyber attacks coming in. That's all. I'm not saying कि ये cyber attack है. This is the system is identifying a pattern and saying that's a cyber attack, or this is the shape gripper will require to grab this piece of glass and carry it 100 meters and place it in this position. right? There's nobody telling the system. So it's all objective. And that is the key. And that is what the enterprises have to focus on.
Yeah. So, do you think text-based content is right now it's at underutilization? There's a lot of underutilization, and probably the opportunities are more as
Well,
far as Gen AI is concerned. Yeah.
the text itself, using text itself is not underutilization. Uh, I mean, you can use GenAI for anything. Like if you create, you say, "Oh, I'm only creating cyber attack detecting." That's underutilization. I'll give you an example of the project that I'm currently working on. That's a text-based project, and I'll tell you what the vision is. The vision is 10-person help desk, 10 people. Okay, no training. They're answering calls. They can answer any of the 150,000 questions about 15,000 household appliances on how to operate them. The call center employee can leave, new person can come. They need 1 hour of training on how to use the system. Okay. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. A technician shows up at your home to repair your TV or your refrigerator or your RO. This guy, at one point, and this company focuses on tier two, three, four cities where it's difficult to get a technician. So technician is reached, and let's say, just to use a random name, Panasonic TV has to be fixed. This guy, on the fly, he understands TV basics. On the fly, will get information on what to test, how to test, what is the repair procedure. He will have immediate access to the manufacturers, how manufacturer would have repaired it if the TV had gone back to Panasonic factory for repair, right? So it's all purely text based, but it is a powerful thing, right? So spatial computing is not text based. So you can't generalize. It is really what data are you using, right? We will be using actual manufacturer data on how to operate a washing machine and how to repair a washing machine.
Yeah.
So it is not based on somebody's experience, open this screw and do that. No, it is based on what LG is saying, how my machine will get repaired. It will be to the point of, these days, almost all of us have had some Wi-Fi router, internet router issues at home, right? You call your provider, any provider, the first thing they do is pull the plug out, wait 2 minutes, and then you say, where is the plug? They'll tell you it's a third hole on the back, on the left top bottom corner, right? They have only one router, so they trained on that. Now imagine a person can take any appliance, 15,000 variations of some 1,500 appliances, and can say LG ki machine pe the third button from the left is the power button. And then the next person they're talking to is saying you can change the water level of your whirlpool by pressing the fourth button from the right. And then they just move on and on and on. And they don't know. By the time they have heard the question, they have the answer in front of them. That is all a text-based system.
Of course. So, Akash, one thing which probably even in the study I discussed during my introduction. Uh, Well, with you talked about so much rapid advancements in AI, but what strategic measures do you believe enterprises should take to ensure they are adequately prepared for the evolving landscape of AI in the coming years? And how can they foster a culture of continuous adaptation to stay ahead in the AI-driven future?
See, there is no perfect answer to your question because it depends upon two or three things, the enterprise itself, right? Number one is there is an enterprise culture of uh, I want to be bleeding edge technology. My risk appetite is high, right? So then you build a culture of saying, okay, I will adapt everything new which comes and I will build a culture and I will have a very strong evaluation team in terms of security, etc. And they will have a culture of internalizing whatever they're doing. take it all in-house. Don't rely on just public data. If you're using public data, make a copy on your private data set, for example, and then use it. Okay. And of course, data is king, right? Data is the new king. I, in fact, published an article saying the king has no clothes. If the data itself you grab from outside is faulty, I mean, you've lost a battle before you even started, right? So those are the data, internalize the system, and have a very robust team to evaluate the security, privacy issues, and then jump into POC and implementation. Did I answer your question or did I
No, no, no,
diverge?
absolutely. No, you're right. In fact, I would also like to pick up a few questions while within this fireside chat itself, in the interest of time. Mr. Vijay Jha has specifically asked, as next gen tech, Gen AI would impact normal life and way for working. And if you could explain how organization should prepare to defend itself from its impact, maybe if you can run down some cybersecurity related challenges also, which initially you touched upon in your presentation.
So, very challenging question. So I will make an attempt to answer it. So here is the thing, right? When internet came, it changed the world. We don't know about it, right? E-payments changed the world. We hardly carry any cash. Our phone has become a payment device, right? So things, this was not predicted when UPI was launched, but that's what happened. It was not predicted what will happen with internet when it was launched. It was not predicted when mobile phone was launched, right? Today, today's college kids don't even want to use a laptop. It's too bulky, too painful for them. They can do everything. Nobody predicted that mobile will take away your camera, your wallet, your computer, right? Your notebook, your pen. How many things it has replaced, right? And something else will replace that. Now, there's already talk of a sensor built by ex-employees of Google, OpenAI, sorry, husband-wife team, where you wear a lapel pin, and that's everything. You can talk, your hand becomes your screen, you can write on your hand, you can see the projection on your hand, right? So similarly with Gen AI, how should you prepare? One thing we know, things are going to change, okay, and they're going to change very fast. I think what will happen is some of one, there'll be two extremes that will change. The mundane tasks. Imagine Gen AI working with RPA, right? So those will get solved very quickly. And then there's certain things that cannot be comprehended today by common man except geniuses. For example, uh, Gen AI has actually crafted shapes which were deemed impossible, unimaginable. They had been created by artists, right? Almost like the Dali's paintings. Gen AI has actually created shapes like that and given it to additive manufacturing system. So that's the other extreme. We will discover things that were not that we thought would be imaginable, right? So to prepare for that means we have to be ready to deploy and exploit, which means the people have to be reskilled, right? And I'm not talking prompt engineering, how to write smart prompts, but how to exploit these systems, right? Just like e-commerce got exploited by different people in different ways, just like internet got exploited by different people in different ways, Gen I also. So the organization has to say, here is an opportunity. The employees have to say, how can I contribute in this? This is coming. It's not going to replace me. It's going to what my grandfather thought of what a pen was. Gen AI is the same for me. That is the mindset organization employees have to work on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The preparation for managing the future of work is extremely critical, and the organizations have to begin their journey. But how to start this journey? Like Harshad Mengle, he has asked it, how to start the journey and how to derive ROI, which is in fact a burning issue for most of the technology leaders.
Okay, so in the examples that I quoted, right, some of them were qualitative, better heat shield, lighter, cheaper heat shield, lighter, cheaper false teeth, 20% reduction in time, 50% reduction in cyber attacks, right? So it has to be, the ROI has to be defined upfront. What do you expect? The top management has to say, okay, I'll give you this money to invest in Gen AI. I want 20% return. So, like any discussion, you come to a certain agreement that at the end of 3 years, I can do 10%. Now, how do I come to the 10% number? That is a significant challenge simply because you're kind of walking into a little bit of unknown. It's not just saying, I have edge computing, I have faster computation and decision making, so therefore I'll save so much time, right? Uh, in Gen IO, you can, Gen AI, sorry, you can do something similar to say it's a simple business decision. Okay? You can just be a finance guy and you start and say, okay, I'm going to invest 2 crores in this over 2 years. Okay, what is the opportunity cost of those 2 crores? Can I give at least that, if not more, back to the company at the end of 2 years? That's what the IT guy should be looking at, right? What is the cost of money that I'm investing in there? End of the day, the board of directors or the owner, founder will basically say, I gave you so much investment, right? And that's what's happening right now, right? During COVID, the money was flowing into technology, right? Now the boards are turning around and asking all the attendees, as to saying, okay, wait, now start giving me ROI. Show me the ROI now. So in Gen AI, like any project, you'll have to say, give me so much money to invest. I'll give you better ROI or similar ROI to elsewhere. Not in the next 2 years, immediately, over 10 years, 5 years. And here is how. That's how you define ROI, essentially based on opportunity cost. So you use finance concepts to define ROI, and then you sit down and say, as a techie, can I achieve that? What does that mean? 20% return means I have to reduce either the material cost or the time to market. Something I have to reduce by 20% or more. Okay.
Yeah, sure, Akash. A couple of more questions before we, I think, delve a little bit into the poll that we read. Uh, while it's great that we need to, I mean, the it's great that of course we need to adapt, and of course we need to build our talent. But that Mr. Madhav Gundelkar has just commented that how to change the thought process of non-technology decision makers for adopting for Gen AI platform, given experience of their traditional approach of using only say Office 365.
Yeah. So that is a classic resistance to change, right? And so there are two parts to the answer. One is the previous question, where you go to such a person and say, hey, I can give you ROI. I can make your life better, right? And a lot of people say, no, Baba, I've been doing this for 20 years now. Don't tell me how to do it better. It's working. If it's working, why fix it, right? So the other thing would be, uh, I remember from the poll, and we'll talk about it. Majority of people on the third question said, some will be more willing, some function will be more willing than others to let me do a POC. Okay. Me personally, over 35 years across different cultures, different languages, you have to identify this champion, business user, and show results. Make sure you succeed. Okay. And then you see people starting to change slowly. I did this in a very simple way. Uh, Offshoring. I set up an offshore center, and there were certain groups which were champions which gave me. There were certain groups which said, no, I'm not going to go offshore IT. Simple classic offshore IT 20 years back, right? But once I started seeing the cost savings, the productivity, the continuous work day, 24 by 7 work is happening between US and India teams, handover is happening smoothly, and the work is continuing, it became a scramble. So that's how you do it. You identify this champion, and I was very relieved to see and we'll see the results very soon. Close to 60% said there will be some more willing than others. So that's where you start, and then you bring the champions in. And here's the other thing which happens: function A starts to succeed. Function B says, "Okay, I want to do it." Function C is still resisting, but the top management says, "Hey, function A and B is working. Why is function C not doing it?" So the function C has a you have to go you have to approach different functions differently depending upon their approach and their risk appetite.
Yeah, absolutely, Akash. Just one last thing. There's another question from a gentleman. So, is it basically is prompt engineering how to make it more effective? And the gentleman is also asking if you also use personal for your personal content and creativities. Do you have you started using generative AI for your content creation?
Okay, so yeah, I do a lot of writing, right? I publish 2 or 3 columns a month. I speak, including right now. So before I answer that, let me give you an example. Amazon has got flooded with Gen AI generated books, entire books. Okay, not a word written, not a comma or a full stop added by the writer, and it's a cat and mouse game. There are tools which can identify Gen AI written things, and then the tools improve to beat those tools. That's security, info security. Between the hackers and infosec experts, there's always the next step and the next step. They keep breaking each other's steps. Amazon has a tool which can actually break every possible Gen AI. And they're under tremendous pressure across the world from governments and writer guilds and all that to you deploy that. Nobody can force them. And Amazon has been resisting it for whatever reason, probably commercial reasons. Coming to me personally, here is how I use a Genius. Okay? I use it for my education. So what happens is I write on emerging technologies. What does emerging mean? It is either got in place, but it's still evolving, or it is getting close to ever getting place. Quantum computing is getting close. The moment they solve qubits, it will go live. Right? So I have to track that. Edge computing is live, but there are things happening in edge computing which are making it better and faster and smoother. So when I start writing, I do a Gen AI to see what's the latest. And I use the tools which will tell me the source. That's very critical. Okay. So, for example, Bing does a very good job of giving you the sources of information. So I use it to educate, and then I do my own research like classic. We say, oh, cha, this is what has happened in qubit, quantum. This is what has happened in edge or Gen AI. Then I go back to old-fashioned way. I use it to get education and pointers. Where I have used it blindly, okay, is the logo that you saw on my slides, and you'll see it again shortly on the bottom right. So I used to have this logo of a lighthouse, and a couple of months back, I said, yeah, let's make it a little more flashy or colorful. So I just went to Microsoft Designer, which does imaging. So I said, take it and put a colorful circular border around it. It gave me 10 options. I picked one. So I used it blindly, Gen AI, for that purpose. But for actual Gen AI, I use for actual writing, I use it for my education to say this is the newest thing which happened yesterday. I have literally read stuff about Gen AI which were published last week by MIT, right? And let me share that. It's a very interesting example of ethics. And then we can go to the results and all that. So what happens is the LLMs of artist work go around scraping the work. And there's a lot of copyrighted work small or mid-sized artists put up for sale at various sites, right? And they're trying to get royalty out of that. But these guys scrape it and then they put it in LLM and it becomes part of the whole Gen AI offered by large big names. You can name any name, they're doing this. I'm not going to name anybody. So there are two software which have been launched last month, and MIT wrote about it last week. One is called Nightshade. What does Nightshade do? The artist can incorporate it into the pixels. It gets uploaded. If it gets scraped and if it gets merged into a set to create a Gen AI output, the entire data set used gets corrupted. Okay, all the images used get corrupted to the extent of cats become hats. Okay, coffee becomes cloud. So the entire output, and there are examples that this article gave, which are completely hilarious and ridiculous. Okay, so and then the LLMs have a huge task. They have to figure out which painting, which particular image has got corrupted, and fix that. But at some point, they'll figure out how to block Nightshade, and then Nightshade guys will figure out how to improve it, how to beat the LLM model. So it's an infosecurity thing. The second software which came is Glaze. If you pick my software and try to do a pixel on it, it will look like something else. I've painted a scenery, it will look like a factory inside of a component factory, right? So it is a waste for, well, I can see it's a scenery, but my system, my LLM is thinking it's a aeroplane inside of an aeroplane. Again, in both these cases, so the whole ethics, governance, privacy, all this come into play here, and the game has started. This is going to become another info security kind of game.
Absolutely, sir. Now, Mr. Madhav has raised another point. If is Gen AI a proprietary platform, which are the best OEM service providers in this domain, like open source platform Gen AI can be implemented or specific OS or database?
Uh, so there is OpenAI, there is Microsoft, right? Microsoft, for example, the logo to Microsoft Designer is free to Office 365 members. Okay, right now it's in beta, so only some people have been selected, but it will be available to every Office 365 members at no additional cost. So a lot of these systems are coming. Google Bard will be available to everybody, just like Google is available. Okay, the revenue model is not clear. So yes, there will be free platforms available. Okay, so Google has various tools, and then there are variations of if you really want to go large scale production, then you have to pay up. But for individual, small, even mid-sized company deployment, or for your POC, there is no cost. There are multiple options from Google, from OpenAI, from Microsoft, right? Uh, and I use all of them. I'm using for my deployment with this company, which will go into 500 cities across 5,000 technicians and 10 customer service employees. It's completely free. I have no cost. My cost is development. My cost is data set. My cost is deployment, making it accessible into a tier 4 city.
Absolutely. No, there are so many questions. I can understand that in the people. Of course, this is a very critical technology, and we need to the technology leaders and everyone has a lot of questions. Probably in future sessions, we would love to take that. Would you like to discuss the poll results, sir? Uh, before we
Yes,
con-
can you
before
display them and I can see?
before
Uh,
we conclude this session,
yeah,
Atul and Snehal, if you could please share the poll results.
okay. So here are all three put together, right? And I was talking about poll three, which kind of answered one of the questions about. So, like I said, I was very relieved to see that 58% say that there will be somebody in the organization that they can identify who will work with them. Okay. But if we were to look at the three of them together, uh, nobody has fully implemented, which was expected. Uh, the not sure and none at all. In pole one, I don't know enough about the business, but only thing I can say, and time will tell, and again, we don't know the full potential yet. Blockchain, right? Blockchain came as a financial services. That's why they were called registers. Only banks used it for financial transactions. Now it's being used for all kinds of stuff, right? Because it's the underlying technology, the capability, not the first implementation, right? I wrote in one of my things, I don't know how many of you know, the whole e-commerce, okay, started with adult entertainment industry. It was started by them because they wanted to make money off of internet. So they were the one who invented e-commerce. And look at where e-commerce, e-payments has gone from there to here. Similarly, I think they would be surprised and uh, will start still trying to figure out why is the largest, which is probably some common to not sure or none at all. Uh, because there is so much hype, a lot of it negative, a lot of it sensational. So I think a lot more cases need to come out. I have a list of 40 cases, and then I have now personal experience building up. Over the next few weeks, as we do more sessions, hopefully people will get to understand and learn more, and I will be able to guide them towards more reading material, research material, specific, so they don't research. I can point out and say, go read here, go look at this, and that will start to build some confidence to say, oh, okay, maybe I can start exploring it. So that's what these poll results are telling me, that there's a set of people who are either on board and there's a set of people who are not sure. And there's some people who are saying not at all, but really, I think they're also unsure. So, no surprise there. I am surprised at the number of people at the positive overweighing the negative. I thought people would still be tentative. So, from where I stand, from my perspective, this is good news for me.
Great, great, Akashji, and I agree with you. The figuring out the why is extremely important, and like some of the surveys that we conducted earlier this year, it's the more or less the situation was same, and close to 40 to 50% people, while they 50% IT leaders were very enthusiastic about AI, but again they were still trying to figure it out why and how to go about it. I think if we can get that answer, that would be
Jitendra,
great.
it's actually very simple. The
Yeah,
positives should not be high because of FOMO.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, everybody's doing it, I also need to do it, right?
yeah,
The negatives sometimes are saying cynicism,
yeah,
why fix it? Or it could be, I am not going with the first one.
yeah.
There have been enough dead bodies in the graveyard of emerging, promising technologies. Let me see where this goes. Let first 100 people do it. I am in no rush, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
So you don't want to be left behind where you are. There are 10 people in your space in your business, and nine have gone, and then you say, "Oh, let me now start." That is how companies like a lot of retailers disappeared in COVID because they were late in going e-commerce route, right? So, so it's a balance. Then there is no magic to that. It is
absolutely.
right. So
Yeah.
that's where that stands.
Yeah, no, thank you, Akashji, for a wonderful overview of using AI to spearhead the business. And I'm sure, and for highlighting some of the challenges in the journey. It's very encouraging to note the successes that you have shared with some of the use cases, and of course, the some of the challenges that most of the businesses and CIOs are also encountering. Thank you very much for sharing your useful and valuable insights. And thanks to all the delegates, all the participants for sharing your questions, your thoughts, and of course, attending the session. and sharing very pertinent, raising very pertinent points around Gen AI and how it can really make an impact on businesses in the near future. I hope everyone found the webinar interesting and informative. We will of course come up with more such engaging sessions, and we look forward to have more participation. Somebody has raised. Okay, yeah. So we look forward to have more interesting conversations ahead. Some of the answers we, in the due to paucity of time, we could not give you during the session. So we would definitely reach out to you. We have your email ID and questions, and Mr. Jain would personally reply to you on your email. And once again, lovely interacting with you, Mr. Jain, and thank you for sparing your time. It was a great discussion. Thanks, everyone, and we look forward
Thank you. Thank you.
to
I
have you.
also, some of the questions made me think, so thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Goodbye.